Hey everyone, today we are coming back to our 125-gallon acrylic aquarium. This is a recent DIY build here in the fish room, and we put out a video not too long ago kind of unveiling the tank as a whole, kind of the entire setup. But today I want to focus in on just the fish. We're going to talk about these beautiful Albino Threadfin Acara. We keep 8 of these fish in this tank, and today we're going to do a species spotlight on these fish. Talk through everything you would need to know if you ever wanted to keep them yourself. So stay tuned for some beautiful and incredible fish. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Let's address one thing first. This is the albino version of Acarichthys heckelii, commonly known as the threadfin acara. But even though we're focusing in on these fish, the albinos, most of what we're going to talk about today is applicable to the regular version as well. And the regulars are beautiful fish in their own right. So even though I keep the albinos, both versions are amazing options for any fish keeper, especially for hobbyists interested in South American fish. These are cichlids from the Amazon River Basin, so you'll find them in their native habitat. These fish are captive bred specimens, these albinos, but their native habitat is northern South America, such as Guyana and North Brazil, down into more central South America, such as Bolivia. Basically the run of the Amazon River and its tributaries. So, being a tropical fish, they do need warmer waters. Most sources online will tell you they need anything from 75 to 83 degrees Fahrenheit. I have kept them very successfully right in the middle of that range, around 78 degrees, just because that's what I keep most of my tanks at. Now, those same sources will also tell you that these fish require soft water. This is less of a firm need in my experience. I've kept these fish successfully for years in my own tap water, which is very hard with a very high pH. And in my experience with many other species, the worst thing to do is chase a water parameter. It's best to work with the water you have so that everything is stable. There are some types of fish that are a bit more finicky, a bit more picky with their water, but I have not found the threadfin acara to be such a species. Let's talk about substrate. These fish do want sand. This is a point that you want to be a little more firm on. They will not do that well on gravel. Will they live? Yes. Will they be happy and thrive? Probably not, because these fish are sand sifters. They're actually very similar to geophagus, which are known as earth eaters. They're not geophagus, but they have very similar behavior. So they like to kind of scoop up sand and kind of sift it through their gills, searching for food particles, and also to move the sand around, kind of redecorating the tank as they see fit, and also for breeding purposes. So these fish want sand, and you're going to want them on black sand. This is a fish where the substrate color really does affect how they look in your tank. Now you might be thinking, Evan, duh, these are albinos. Of course they will look better, they'll pop more on black sand. I do find that's not always the case though. Some light colored fish surprisingly look well on a light colored sand. But these, I have kept them on both light and dark sand, and dark is just so much better. I don't keep them on dark sand now. I kind of regret it, but I made the decision to go with a natural color sand in this tank for other reasons. But it was a tough decision. They'll still look good on white sand, don't get me wrong. You can see it right there, but they do pop on black. And no matter what, I do recommend that the back of the tank be painted black. Regardless of your substrate color, paint the back black. You will be doing yourself a favor. Let's go ahead and talk tank size. These are not small fish. They're not huge by any means, but they still get to be a decent size. The males will hit 6.5 to 7 inches, and females will max out around 5 to 6 inches. With that, they need a decent sized aquarium. We keep our fish in a 125-gallon, a 6-foot tank, but that's because we have several of them. You could keep this fish in a 75-gallon if you're keeping a single specimen or a male-female pair. But if you want to keep more than that, then you're going to want to move up to a 6-foot aquarium. In our 125 with 8 fish, I actually think we might have a couple too many. I would recommend keeping 6 of these fish in a 125. You could maybe do 8 if you were heavy on the females. In my group, I'm actually heavy on the males, which is something I've considered adjusting for in the future. And if you're keeping multiple fish, regardless of the tank size, you're going to need to give them places to hide, some cover opportunities. That can come from driftwood and rocks and caves. In this tank, there's actually a lot more hiding spots than appears from the front because they dig large pits underneath the wood and behind the rocks in the back. So when they're not out and about looking for food, they do have a plenty hiding options, which is something you want to mimic in your own tanks. I might even still add a few more pieces of driftwood in here. Now let's talk plants. If you want to keep plants with this fish, I'll say good luck. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I have not had success personally. I've tried keeping them with plants, rooted plants, they dig up out of the substrate. Other plants like Anubias or Java fern that stick to the driftwood, they've actually yanked them off the wood for who knows what reason. But I have not had success. I keep them with these mangrove trees, but that's a little bit of a different story. So if you do it and you do have success, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And finally, we come to food. These fish are pretty undemanding. I personally feed them a lot of heckelii vibrobites and community formula from Northfin or Extreme. They'll pretty much take anything. When they're smaller, you can give them flake foods, and then when they grow, you can give them larger pellets. And like most fish, they also love live and frozen foods. I'll occasionally feed them frozen bloodworms, which they love and is great for them being South American cichlids. They prefer foods heavy on the animal proteins and fats, the opposite of many of our other fish like African cichlids. But that's about all I had for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video on the beautiful Albino Threadfin Acara. I highly encourage you to consider keeping these fish someday in your own hobby. They are very rewarding. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the section below. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.